If you're considering making the switch from Audacity to Pro Tools, then this is the perfect video for you. Or if you just want to know more about the differences between the two DAWs before making a decision. In this video, I'm going to go through what's the same, what's different, and how to switch from Audacity to Pro Tools without being overwhelmed. Let's do this. So what's the same about the two pieces of software? So firstly, obviously, they're both digital audio workstations. They're both pieces of software that you can record, edit and mix audio, whether that's your music or your podcast or whatever kind of audio you're working with. If you look at them next to each other, you'll notice that a lot of the features are the same. They've just been moved or renamed. For example, the project window in Audacity is called the edit window in Pro Tools, and you'll still have your tracks in a vertical format as you would see them in Audacity. They both have a selection of built-in plugins that you can use, EQs, compressors and things, and they both run on Windows and Mac. So what's different about the two of them? So right from the start, before you've even started using the software, you'll notice that Pro Tools is more professional and has less of a rough and ready approach. Pro Tools is an industry standard studio tool. It has a big budget behind it and it's a paid product. So whether you're using a paid version or a free trial, you'll still need to create an account and get the software license, and the installation process is longer as well. Whereas Audacity is much smaller and it's open source. And then once you've opened up Pro Tools, you'll notice that there's a lot more going on once you get your teeth into it. There's real-time plugins, there's MIDI recording, you can have multiple playlists for each track, and a bunch of other features that aren't currently in Audacity at the time of recording. The user interface is a lot more flashy, even though it does still have a more of a kind of classic feel to it than some of the other modern DAWs, in my opinion. It can handle a lot more tracks, and the top tier of Pro Tools even has its own dedicated hardware interface. But even if you don't use that, you will need a more powerful machine to run Pro Tools than you would to run Audacity. And if you want to upgrade to a more professional piece of software like Pro Tools, I know it can seem really daunting, there's so much going on, but the key is just to focus on the few features that you need at the beginning to get you started and then gradually learn them. In this next part of the video coming up, you'll learn how to move from Audacity to Pro Tools without feeling overwhelmed by it. So I'm going to show you a toolbar in Audacity, one of the main functions or tools, and then we're going to go and find its equivalent in Pro Tools. So firstly, the audio tracks. Now this has a very similar look to it. You'll have them all stacked up, going down vertically. To create one in Audacity, you'd be recording or you'd be importing some audio. To create a track in Pro Tools, you'd be creating the track first before you start recording. So you'd go to Track, New, or you'd use the shortcut Control-Shift-N, just press Create, and then you've got it there, rather than it being automatically created. And then when you want to record, you'd be arming the track for recording and then clicking the record button there on the transport window, rather than in Audacity where you can simply just click record and it will start recording there. You've still got your solo and mute buttons there, just like you do in Audacity. And then here you've got your volume and pan. So you've got your volume fader, just like that. It just goes up and down instead of left and right, and your pan pot as well, which goes all the way to 100% left or 100% right, just like in Audacity. And as you probably know, you can move your Audacity toolbars around, but typically you'll find the transport bar up here. Again, very familiar tools. You've got your stop, play, record, and then you can see that's on loop there. If you right click that, you can uncheck loop, whereas on Audacity, you've got your own dedicated loop button. Now, one of the most important things when setting up your digital audio workstation is getting your audio interface or your microphone set up with it. So in Audacity, you've got this device toolbar here where you can just pick. So I've got a Focusrite audio interface. You can pick what your system's recording from and outputting to. On Pro Tools, you have that as well, but you just go into Setup, Playback Engine, and then you can set up which device you're using there. You've got your typical menu at the top here with File for creating and opening and saving projects, just like in Audacity. Then you've got your edit functions. There are a lot more features, like I said, with Pro Tools, but again, Just focus on the main ones to start, your edit and your file. And then in Audio Suite, you'll have a list of all your plugins. This will be much smaller for you if you're just starting with Pro Tools, because I've got a bunch of third-party plugins in there. But like on Audacity, if you go into Effect, you've got your effects there. So you can highlight a piece of audio, go into Effect, apply an effect. You can do exactly the same thing by highlighting the audio and opening up an effect and applying it. The difference with Pro Tools is that you can use plugins real time as well. So you've got this inserts section here. So you can open that up, multi-channel plugin, because it's a stereo track, and then select a plugin, and that will apply that effect to the audio in real time rather than having to render it and save it on the audio. Now Audacity should be getting real-time plugins at some point. It might already be out by the time you watch this, but at the moment it's just a Pro Tools thing. And obviously this is quite a quick overview. At the end of the video I will share with you a full course right here on YouTube that you can watch that will teach you how to get started with Pro Tools. Now in terms of editing your audio, again you've got similar functions with both pieces of software. So you've got the edit toolbar in Audacity where you can cut, copy, paste. I don't tend to use those much anyway. I normally use the shortcuts because they're so second nature from using other, even word processors use the same shortcuts. Your Control-X to cut, Control-C and Control-V, copy and paste. And then you've got those functions up here as well. It's the same with Audacity. You've got all those functions up here as well. You cut, copy, paste, and you can use the same shortcuts for the most part. You've even got the option to enable this one single key shortcut, so you can actually just press X rather than Control-X or Command-X, for example, and it saves you time there. Just one of the benefits of using Pro Tools. In your Tools toolbar here in Audacity, you can select between the pencil that lets you draw in automation, the selection tool where we're selecting audio, or the Smart tool, which lets you do just about everything. So it lets you draw in automation, level changes, fades. It lets you select as well. Similar kind of thing with Pro Tools. So you've got your pencil tool for drawing in changes. You got your selector tool there. Not that one, that one. And then you've got a Smart tool as well, which lets you do everything. So it's conditional where your mouse is. So if you put it in the corner, it would give you a fade, or you can use it to select or move. One important new thing with Pro Tools that you want to keep an eye on is these edit modes. So you've got 4 modes there, quite easy to get to grips with though. And you can also change them by using F1, 2, 3 and 4. Slip will let you move audio or MIDI wherever you want. Grid will snap it to the grid. Shuffle means when you delete something, it pulls any audio to the right of it to fill that gap. This is how it works typically with Audacity anyway, unless you change it in the options, so you'll be used to that. And then spot, you don't have to worry too much about that one now. Up here you've got your timeline, just like you do with Audacity, where it tells you how many seconds in you are. You've got that here as well. You've also got beats and bars, and you can change this to samples. If you click up there on the clock there, you can change it so that it's counting samples instead, just like with Audacity. At the bottom there, you've got your clock. You can change that to samples, so you can see a sample count. Then if you're looking for where you'd find your master output, for example, if we click play on this, see the overall playback level on the master there. In Pro Tools, you just have to create it manually. So you can go to Track New and have a stereo master fader. So these are all the different types of tracks you can do in Pro Tools. The audio one is obviously what we used before to import some audio, but the master fader is basically what this is. The difference is that you can put plugins on it, and you can see that it's going through to your master fader there, just like with Audacity. Just a couple more important things. If you go to View Mixer Board on Audacity, you can see your mixer, so you can see a horizontal track layout instead. you've got that in Pro Tools as well. Do Control equals or Command equals to open up your mixer, and you can see your tracks horizontally instead. A couple of things that aren't in Audacity that are in Pro Tools that you might want to consider taking a look at sort of soon after you first start learning it is the MIDI functionality. So if you're using Pro Tools to record MIDI, a MIDI instrument, and you can plug that in, get that all set up. If you go into Setup and MIDI input devices, you can enable your MIDI instruments that are plugged in via USB. And then, as I mentioned before, you can go to Track, New, and it would be a MIDI track or an instrument track that you want. And then it will allow you to record. You can arm the track, hit record, and then it will be picking up your MIDI data. The other important track that you'll likely want to use at some point is the auxiliary buses. So again, new track, aux input. These let you route other tracks through a bus. So if we look at the input and output here, this is sort of like what you'd see in your device toolbar on Audacity, but you're setting the input for each individual track. So if you've got an audio interface with multiple inputs, like multiple microphone inputs, then you can set different tracks, different inputs, allowing you to record multiple mics at the same time. Now, this is something you can't do in Audacity, and it's a really powerful feature. But once you've got your auxiliary input open, if you change the input to a bus, just pick anything, 3 to 4, that's fine. If you then send with the output a track to that bus, you'll see that the audio is now going through that bus. This is really useful for like sending multiple tracks through one bus, so you can put plugins on the bus and it affects all of the tracks that are being sent to it. Again, I'm just giving you a general overview of what Pro Tools can do that Audacity can't. I will be sharing that course for you to go through in just a moment, which will teach you all the basics of learning Pro Tools. And one last thing to consider is the file structure. So with Audacity, when you save your Audacity session, it's just like an AUP file, and all the audio is saved in that AUP file. With Pro Tools, when you save it, you get this PTX file for Pro Tools, and then it saves a separate folder for audio files, which is a little bit more clunky. You've got to make sure you keep everything together, but it can be very useful for if you want to export individual files that are in your tracks and things like that. So I'll leave a link in the description and on screen now to the Pro Tools First Pro course. It's free, it's on YouTube, 15 videos, and it goes through the basics of learning Pro Tools. I use Pro Tools First to demonstrate on, but it works even if you just go for the free trial or the full version of Pro Tools, it all works the same. So I hope this has helped you to understand the difference between the two pieces of software, whether you're just interested or you actually are thinking of swapping from Audacity to Pro Tools. I hope this helps. It's really not that different. The main functions are all there and in a similar place. It's just a case of getting to grips with it. And the more you practice, the quicker you'll get it drummed in, and then you can start learning some of the more advanced features of Pro Tools. So if there's anything at all you're not unsure about, you're thinking, can I do this in Pro Tools, or where can I find this function in Pro Tools that I could in Audacity, just leave it in the comment section below and I'll do my best to jump in and help out. And for more Pro Tools and Audacity and mixing and editing and recording content, just hit that subscribe button. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.